Hi, thank you everyone for coming this evening. So I will be speaking about matching and family finding, so you've kind of going through the process. I guess adoption as, in terms of family finding and placing children has moved on quite a bit from, oh, hang on, that's not, I'm not sure it's been put in the right way. Okay, well, we'll just have to leave the PowerPoint, so sorry about that. I guess if we think about adoption, it's changed quite a lot historically, from more informal process of placing children with families to really considering the needs of the children and really looking for families for children as opposed to the other way around. So Paula mentioned, in the home study that a lot of the focus is about your ability and your capacity, and it's really important that we get to know who you are, so that once you're approved as adopters, we can find the best match for you really in terms of child or children. So the focus is really on meeting the children's needs. That children have a variety of needs and experience which will impact on their behavior and also what will help them move forward, in terms of what family can offer them. So once you're approved and you're adopters, what happens next? I guess it's a case of waiting often, and there's no timeline on how long you would wait, for a match to come along, for the right match to come along. So it's really important that you keep in touch with your social worker. It's really important that you have a good relationship with your social worker. There's quite a lot happens behind the scenes, and it might not seem like that, but actually quite a lot happens behind the scenes. Your social worker will be contacting, different agencies or voluntary agencies to find a match for you. If you are approved with a local authority, you might be approached for a child who is looking, needs to be placed locally, if that's appropriate for you. Otherwise, if that's not appropriate, then, after, we'll be looking further afield, so either in neighboring local authorities or nationally. The Scottish government this year made a decision that after 3 months of adopters waiting, there's a mandatory process of going on the Scotland Adoption Register, which is a central database where your profile will be uploaded and shared with adopters, with local authorities, who are looking for adopters for children. So that would be nationally. So that's after 3 months. So I guess that's kind of increases the chances, of getting a match all over Scotland. So we use a number of ways to look for children and to look for families for children. You may have seen magazines called Children Who Wait to Adoption UK print, and they profile children who are looking for adopters, for families. And in Scotland, we use this, as I mentioned, the Scotland Adoption Register, which is a central database, and that's very much what we'll be using, I think, more and more moving forward for all local authorities, because it has become mandatory. And I guess having a central system improves the communication between local authorities and voluntary agency in terms of sharing information about who is waiting, for families. There are different ways of doing that. The Scotland Adoption Register has got an online system where I mentioned that your profile will be uploaded and children's profile also uploaded. There's also exchange days, which are more interactive, because adopters would attend with their social workers, and social workers for children would also attend those days, and you would get a chance to speak directly to the social workers or foster carers sometimes about the children who are looking for families. So you get more of a sense of who the children are. You might see a DVD of them, you get more of a clearer picture, a more realistic picture of who the children are who are waiting for adoption. People have found those events really helpful in terms of making a closer connection to the children. From exchange days, we've kind of moved on to activity days. Activity days are even more interactive because children attend activity days. So it's a chance for adopters to meet children who are waiting for families. They are well-prepared, structured days. Well, semi-structured because they are play activities which are organized for children and yourself, and some time also for you to speak to the children, spend time with the children, speak to the foster carers, and also the social workers. So it's a fairly new system in Scotland. There's been a pilot this year where there's been 3 activity days, and the government just agreed to fund another 6 for next year, so kind of double the number of activities for next year. So again, people have got different ideas, about the benefits of activity days. It does, I think most people feel a bit uneasy about meeting children, but actually, again, it's another way of getting a real sense of who the children are, and because sometimes you don't get a sense of who they are when you read a report on them. So again, more interaction and a chance to make a connection with the children who are waiting to be adopted. So what happens if you find a match? You will speak to your social worker. Your social worker will, if you're interested, in children or childhood or children, your social worker will then contact the child's social worker, or vice versa. If the child's social worker, is likes your profile and feel actually those people could meet this child's needs, then they would contact your social worker and would exchange reports and have meetings and linking meetings, and you would get a chance to meet the foster carers, the doctor, anyone who's involved in the child's life, if it's nursery, if it's school. So anyone who knows a child really well, and you get more of a sense of who they are. And then you would go to a matching panel, which is similar to your approval panel, but it would be basically discussing the child's needs and your ability to meet the child's needs and why this would be a good match. And the match would be approved by the panel, and then you would start the introductions to meet the children. And it takes about from 10 to 2 weeks, would you say? Kind of roughly, depends on the age of the child, depends on where where you're coming from, depends on a lot of things. But it wouldn't take more than 2 weeks for the kind of introduction to take place and the child to move in with you. And then the child moves in, and after 13 weeks of the child being placed, the adoption order can be lodged in court for you to become the legal parents of the child. So not before 13 weeks that can happen. And in that time, you would still get visits from the social worker for the child, and have a chance to, I guess, get to know each other and figure things out in terms of routine and how things work. Once the adoption order is granted, you will still get support from the child's local authority, and it is a duty for the child's local authority to support you for the first 3 years of the child being placed. After that, your local authority, if the child is not from the same local authority, would offer you support. And that's kind of it. So I don't know if you've got any questions, or maybe Emily wants to add anything to it. But
with those activity days, what was the process at the end of them? Do social workers make recommendations, or do the doctors express interest?
Yeah, well, it's both ways. So adopters can basically give us feedback, and ask for the social worker of the child to be contacted, and then we would start a conversation, between social workers about, what appealed to you about this child, what the connection was, and then we would exchange reports on the child.
And do potential adopters attend those days before or after that 3 month? Put on
It could be before. If there's one coming up, if you've just been approved, there's one coming up. It could be before. You just need to be approved adopters. Yeah.
There's a room set aside for adopters and their workers, and also the children's social workers to go and meet and have discussions about help. To have discussions about the children that are there and any questions that adopters want to ask. And the day is quite tightly controlled. At the end of the day, the children leave before the adopters and the social work staff, so you get plenty of time to talk to people that know the children well and note interest if that's what you want to do.